We're live. Wow, we're back.
Yep.
The Flight Podcast. Listen, guys, I know it's been a minute. I know.
Yeah.
We apologize. Life does happen.
I don't apologize
Oh, well, you heard it here
because life
first.
happens.
Life definitely happens. So it feels really good to be back and making content. And
Hmm.
a lot has happened since the last time we last conversed.
Yeah.
I believe that was like April?
Yeah. It's been a minute.
So yeah, a lot to talk about, a lot of topics to talk about, a lot of important things have happened. So we definitely want to just kind of slide into it and you know just talk about what's been going on
Yeah.
around the world,
Yeah.
specifically Texas, because we see a lot of interesting things. So again, so many topics. I'm super excited to be back here in this space doing this. Can't wait to just kind of dive in and start making it happen again.
Yeah.
What you
Well,
what you been up to, Dash? What's been going on?
yeah. Life has definitely happened for me. Changing careers, changing locations as far as like my crib and getting everything squared away. And one thing I've learned in this little season of mine is just everything doesn't have to be perfect for you to start.
Of
You
course
know,
not. No.
even now, like my crib has like no furniture, but hey, I'm
That's
still gonna
cool.
set this mic up and this laptop, and we're gonna get to work.
Listen, hey, you got somewhere to stay. That's major in this in this
Super.
in this economy. That's major. One bedrooms out here costing 1,700.
Oh my
You
god.
know, you paying for two bedrooms that cost over 2 grand, and these is mortgage prices.
Right. Right.
So we're living in interesting times. That's for sure.
Yeah. What about you?
I also moved.
Oh, cool.
Moved to a different part of town. It's more my people over here. I'm actually kind of excited to be in this area because I'm surrounded by people who look like me.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is going to be a good opportunity for me to have some type of influence
Yeah.
on what happens in my new community. So I'm excited to actually, get to know the people and start doing some community work.
Yeah. Cool.
And then, I mean, as far as the career goes, I'm still doing what I do. My book is still on the shelves. Focus to Wake Up is still available on Amazon. You can definitely find that. And if you're in Longview, it is also available at the Longview Public Library for checkout. I feel very proud about that. Shout out to Autumn for helping me make that happen and all the people that's been supporting.
Yeah. And
Truly
anywhere you
appreciate
get
it.
this podcast, the link will definitely be in the description.
Oh yeah,
For
for
you to click.
sure. Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's all I've been doing. Just trying to be somebody out here.
Cool. All right. Well, this is the Flight Podcast, man. We're just about to get into it.
Let's get into it.
What are we talking about today?
Today's topics, we got two topics. These are going to be two big topics. I think anybody can attest to what we're going to talk about, whether you have children in school, whether you're in the school system yourself as a teacher or a staff member, you're going to probably feel what we're going to be talking about today. Today's two topics is going to be the American education system and the teacher shortage.
Yeah.
There is absolutely a teacher shortage. We're going to kind of just dive into those two topics. I mean, it's kind of hot topics right now.
Yeah. I think. Especially when I was growing up. Even when I was in foster care, there's a lot of lack in the school systems when it came to public schools.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It could just be the pay. It could just be the system itself that kind of chokes out the inspiration that these teachers have that want to make their world a better place by helping shape the seeds of tomorrow. And it's a sad realization when someone has a passion to do something and it's been taken away by a systematic oppression.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, I've always been one to pay attention to what's going on when it comes to education in school, even from childhood. And so I remember feeling like a prisoner a lot of the times in the American education system, feeling like I wasn't allowed to know certain things. But I was also the type of student that did a lot of research and I did a lot of questioning, and I was the one who they call argumentative because I like to debate a little bit. I was
Right.
definitely that child who was kind of push the limits, like why we can't learn about this and why are you not telling us about that, and I just kind of started paying attention to what wasn't being said more than what was.
Right, right.
So I kind of just want to get into some history here. I did do a little bit of research on some things just because I'm paying attention to similarities with the American education system to um, prison.
Okay.
And when I say the topic being the American education system, I wanted to really call this the school to prison pipeline because that's really what it's been. Um, a lot of people don't know the history of the education system, how it came about, why it came about, what was being done before it came about, and things like that. So I think it's really important to kind of talk about that a little bit, and then just kind of dive into how um, the education system is very similar to the prison system in a lot of ways, and how they actually pipeline it to where you're able to, or they're able to streamline you right into the prison system, right out of the school system, right into the prison system. So it's like a funnel, a never ending funnel of people going and making money for these public and private investors. So yeah, that hey, we getting into it. This
Yeah,
episode might be a little bit longer than 30 minutes. We coming back, man.
yeah.
This episode 5. We here.
This is interesting because everyone, each individual is born with a particular set of creativity, and creativity is easily stripped, by systems, right?
Right.
Because systems build robots, right?
Oh yeah. Oh man, we getting into it. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So, and it's hard to. I mean, just thinking it through now, these teachers, I'm sure they have ideas on how to make the curriculum more, fun or easy to learn and absorb, but they can't do certain things.
Before you even hop into it, let me go ahead and give y'all a little background, right? Like I
Yeah.
said, I did a little research, so I'm gonna read some stuff, that I read up on and found out about, and I just want to share, and then we'll hop into exactly what you just said. So, what is education? Let's start there.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, according to Merriam-Webster, that's the dictionary, guys. Education is the process of receiving or giving systematic instructions. Systematic instructions, especially at a school or a university. The next question is, well, what is a system? According to the Oxford Dictionary, a system is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done. It is organized framework or method work.
Okay.
So, now knowing those two things, that kind of sounds like planned for something or controlled for something,
Control for
right?
sure. Yeah.
So, a system was created for a specific reason.
Yeah.
This system was created by specific people for a specific reason.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I want to go into next. Where did this come from? Prior to the 19th century, education was not that important. If you wasn't a doctor or a lawyer, or you didn't have money, you didn't typically have an education. Education was something that was seen as like a prestigious thing. Due to your social class, you have degrees and you have certifications and things like that, or you're notoriously known for being very good or great at certain skills, right?
Okay.
Education wasn't required. You didn't have to go to school. You could or didn't have to. And if you were offered the chance to go to school, there was a cost associated. It wasn't free. There was no free school.
Right.
Most people literally learn from home. They learn from their community. They learn from the people they grew up around. They learn from their neighbors and their parents and their family members and things like that. So there wasn't any actual system in place yet for schooling. So it wasn't a requirement. But around 1821, public school became a thing. And by the 1860s, a guy by the name of George Peabody, he donated some money to start sponsoring education. And he linked up with the notorious J.D. Rockefeller. That's John D. Rockefeller for those who don't know. Mr. Rockefeller was a huge financial business guru. So he had a lot of money. He was touching a lot of money. And he linked up with another guy named Frederick T. Gates, who was a very well-established businessman.
And hold on, let me say something real quick, especially when it comes to, I'm not going to say no names because I already know how I get, but no one, especially in that time, is that rich without blood being spilled.
Hmm. Listen,
So let's all remember that.
hey,
You know,
look it up. Nothing I'm telling you is made up. Everything that I'm telling you, I literally researched. So you can look all of this stuff up. Do the research. I encourage you to do the research. Do the research. Read it for yourself. Find out for yourself. I just want to put it out there because I want y'all to start paying attention to what's going on. So back to just a little bit of brief education. J.D. Rockefeller got with Frederick Gates. They decided to create the General Education Board, what we know as the American Public Education System. Over time, they provided $100 million in funding for public institutions. This included colleges and universities, small at the time, but they funded a lot of colleges and
a
universities
hundred
as
million
well.
dollars in 18 what?
In 1867, but the $100 million was donated in 1905 or around
Still,
1905. So I found a couple of different dates. It was 1902, 1904, and 1905. So somewhere between 1902 and 1905, he was able to acquire and donate about $100 million into this fund that they created. Also, when they created this fund, they also created a curriculum. And if you know what a curriculum is, that is a set of basically a set of
it's a design.
a designed plan of things to teach, and you don't go outside of that. You're not allowed to teach outside of that. You have to stay according to the plan. So they actually funded this plan. That means any books that were gifted, any knowledge that was poured in, the types of teachers they were hiring. They were hiring people who knew certain things, that could teach certain things, but it was all by design. um, they started increasing this budget, and over time, this budget eventually touched $7.5 billion at a point. And that's not a little bit of money, guys. That's a lot of money we talking about. So you're talking about this one guy who linked up with this other guy who was able to create this systematic system to fund education. Now, if you don't know a lot about J.D. Rockefeller, he was a guy who was notoriously known for not wanting or caring to create thinkers. He wanted to design a world of workers. And so to hear that he created this education system and or help fund this education system and help create the curriculum, that ought to tell you right there that it's designed to keep you as a worker and not a thinker.
Right.
Thinkers don't make money for
Other
business,
thinkers.
other thinkers,
Yeah.
businessmen and financial people. Workers do, and that's why your guy J.D. Rockefeller tried to team up with Henry Ford, because you know Henry missed the assembly line, man. He had workers,
Yeah.
and he was on this innovative thing where he kind of wanted to turn that into some assembly line deal where it's like mechanics versus an actual physical person, and J.D. Rockefeller like, nah, we want manual labor. It's cheaper, it's easier, whatever. But anyway, listen, I can go all day up in that, but I just kind of wanted to give a little history on who and how the system was funded. It was literally designed to have an end goal. The end goal was to create workers, not thinkers. So you have a history of workers, factory workers, assembly line workers, laborers. Hell, we just celebrated Labor Day
Right.
literally a couple of days ago. Let's be real. Look at the history behind Labor Day and what it is and why we actually do that, what that means. It's not just a day to cook barbecue, guys.
Right.
It's not just a day to kick back and just fellowship with your people. Look at the history behind Labor Day and what it stood for and why it's a thing and why you get the day off if you do. Because
Right.
everybody don't get the day off.
Sadly enough, and I'm just looking here at this inflation calculator, and $100 million back in 1905 is worth $3.36 billion today.
I bet.
And it's funny because in the grand scheme, that's not really a big number. 3.36 billion to make a change that significant.
Exactly. Now check this out. They said over the further decades, they acquired about 7.5 billion. So what is that in today's money?
It depends on the range on how they acquired it, but
This is 1907.
1907.
1907.
Let's see.
So the
Two
initial
hundred
gift
and
was like,
thirty-five billion.
see what I'm saying? The initial gift was 1 million. Then it increased to 10 million, which eventually increased to 32 million, which went to 100 million, which ended up being over $7.5 billion between 1902 and 1910.
Hmm.
So what, 8 years?
Right.
Over 8 years, over $7 billion.
Yeah. You
And
know what? None of us putting the money in the pot. So.
look, no, we didn't even have. We had the money. Don't get me wrong, we had money. Tulsa,
Right.
shout out to Tulsa, shout out to the Greenwood District. Do your research if you don't know about the Tulsa massacre. There was a lot of money out there, and there was a
For
lot
sure.
of big business that was being run by black people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't let these people fool you and let you think that we've been penny pinching. Nah, we used to have it. They
Right.
took it. They took it. Do your research, man, for real. Look it up.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to this school to prison pipeline. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this topic is because I saw a video on TikTok, and I think I sent it to you. Um, the school was being treated like a prison. I watched the video. It was about 8 a.m. Kids going to school. They're being yelled at by police officers because they had officers on campus. They're walking through metal detectors and they're being patted down, and they have dogs and all kinds of things in this video. And I started thinking, it's 8 a.m. These are children,
Right.
and they're being treated as though they're criminals. Now, I didn't go to a school that had metal detectors, but we did have police officers, like real police officers. It wasn't like a resource officer. It was literally a Longview PD. But in this video, there were multiple officers. There were two metal detectors, and there were people being patted down, and there were police dogs. And all I'm thinking is, I can't imagine starting my day as a child, because let's be
Right.
real, you in school, you in high school, you still a kid.
Right.
I cannot imagine starting my day with that kind of chaos.
Right.
I cannot imagine starting my day with a police officer yelling at me, being violated, patted down like I'm some type of criminal.
Right.
That wasn't my reality, right? But see, I was talking to my wife, and she like, yeah, we had metal detectors. So that was her reality. And she said, yeah, it felt like a prison a lot of the times. And then I started really thinking, and I'm like, yo, we have to raise our hand to go to the bathroom.
Right.
Now, my mama was always that person like, yeah, you don't have to ask for permission to do something that a human does.
Right.
You can let them know you're going to the bathroom, but that asking and them telling you no and you sitting there holding your, come on, man.
Right.
That's a health hazard.
Absolutely.
And so it's like little things. And then I'm talking to teachers, and they're like, yeah, I mean, I can't even teach what I want to. I have to stay within the realms of this. Sometimes I have to pull books that were once approved because it's opening their mind too much. And it's like, well, what's the goal?
Right.
You say things like, you can be whatever you want to be. Well, what if I want to be a thinker? And if I'm thinking, I'm starting to realize that what you're teaching me is BS.
Right.
And you're treating me like a prisoner.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, man. I was watching that video, and I could not believe what I was seeing. And I'm like, this is the American education system in 2022. And then I started thinking about the school to prison pipeline. And I started thinking about the 1994 crime bill. Shout out to Joe Biden. Yeah, he was a part of that. Do your research, read up on it. They were able to, I believe, double or triple the amount of incarcerated people between 1994 and 1998 because of the crime bill. And a lot of those people were between the ages of 17 and 24. So they were taking kids. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And a lot of those arrests were happening outside of the school on campus. Again, look these things up. I'm not just talking. Look it up. You got to understand that these institutions receive money every time you go to jail. You are like a stock or a bond. They call it come on, man. You paying a bond.
Right.
Where you think this money going? Who you think getting paid off of that? Think about these things. Lil Wayne said it in one of his songs. It costs more to send a person to jail than it does to send him or her to college. But they would rather send you to jail because they're going to make more money sending you to jail versus sending you to college. Again, this goes back to the workers, not thinkers. If you don't think for yourself, if you don't read and research for yourself, I can tell you anything and you'll believe it.
Exactly.
And I think that's where a lot of people kind of mess up because they just believe what they're told. I ain't never been that person. I'm always going to look it up.
Man, it's funny. This is completely unrelated. Somebody got me watching P-Valley, right?
Oh, that's Michelle. The Paint.
The Paint. I love Paint. No, so I remember it was a scene where Lil Murda was sitting with the promoter producer guy,
Yeah.
and he straight up said to him, "Ain't nobody gonna put you in a 360 deal like me." And I'm sitting there like, "What is he? What?" And Lil Murda's just sitting there. He didn't know what a 360 deal was.
And see, again, you got to educate yourself.
Right? You think that's a good deal? That's a horrible deal.
Exactly.
But yeah.
See, and that's why it's important to know what's going on, guys. You can't just listen to a person because it sounds good. Read it and research it. Don't listen to me because it sounds like I'm probably telling the truth. Go look it up. Please go look it up. Okay? I'm not going to tell you nothing that you can't go research yourself because I'm going to do the research before I come talk to you about it. I'm not just talking to you because I'm mad at America. Like, bro, we're doing horrible from an education standpoint globally. Look it up. Look where we fall globally. While we're sitting here talking, I'll look it up for you, and then you can look it up after me and make sure I'm not lying to you. But for real though, like we gotta teach our kids because the school system's they're not teaching your kids to open their minds.
No, and you know it's funny you said as far as our country ranks in education, I was looking at some commercial. I think somebody recorded a commercial from probably Russia. You know how we used to do like, for 5 cents a day,
Yeah,
for African kids. Yo, they're saying in other countries that we have food insecurities here.
absolutely.
And they're running commercial campaigns for it, saying send your money to America. What? It's all, it goes deeper in a rabbit hole, and it's so much you can learn just by looking.
Yeah, I wish more people would just pay attention. If you pay attention, it's literally in our faces.
Yeah.
Nothing is hidden. It's done right in your face. But if you're too busy or if you're not paying attention, it's so easy to just do it. Do it in front of your face. What you gonna do?
Right.
What are you gonna do?
And speaking about those kids, that were getting patted down, like you're saying, like imagine your rights literally being stripped away as a child already, and you don't even know.
I was just about to say, imagine not even knowing that you're being violated.
Right. And now these kids are conditioned to think that it's okay for somebody to pat me down.
Exactly. They think it's normal.
Right.
These are not normal conditions. Being treated like a prisoner, being treated like you are not a human. That's not okay.
Right.
It's 2022 and things should be different and in a better light. But we're still dealing with things that our grandparents and our great grandparents and our great 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 grandparents was dealing with. And that's a wild thought for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm so big on change. I'm so big on making things happen because I don't want my kids or my kids' kids or my kids' kids' kids to deal with what I'm dealing with, to see what my grandparents saw, to see what my mom saw, to see what my great grandparents saw. I like how people be trying to make it seem like things are so far removed. My parents were born in the early and mid 60s. My grandparents was born in the 30s and 40s. Their parents was born in the 20s, you know what I mean? The 20s, right. Whose parents was slaves. You see, we're not that far removed.
Right.
It's not that far removed. My grandmother's grandparents were slaves.
Right.
We're not that far removed. And so I wish people would stop making it appear as though we're so far removed. Back then, you got to remember, education just became prominent in the late 1800s. Right? We were still being violated as black people in the 1900s. Yeah. There were still plenty of black people who couldn't read and write. And you're telling me this is far removed. It was illegal still. And you're telling me it's far removed.
Right.
Come on, man. I'm going to read every moment I get because there was a point where this was not okay.
Right.
I had to just go by what you told me. And I couldn't even find out for myself.
You could legit be killed for it if you were caught.
Yep. So. Killed, jailed, beat. Like, people don't understand how deep this stuff runs, man. For real. That's why we got to get more involved.
So, bringing it back to, actual teachers, and
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's get into it.
uh, I would actually. I mean, if uh, I wish we would have did this live. I do want to hear from actual teachers today, and maybe we'll start up a blog format or something like that.
Yeah, I made a TikTok about the teacher shortage and about the education system, and I've had a lot of teachers say, "Yeah, it's real bad. It
Right.
is like prison." I've had them agree,
Right.
and I've had people I know that got their degree in education and walked away
Yeah.
because the pay is not there, the resources are not there. There's no money in the budget to pay for good books and good resources to teach these kids, and then these kids have no motivation to learn. I've seen too many TikToks where they don't know nothing, and
Right.
it's like it's a joke. They're laughing, and it's funny, and it's really sad
Yeah.
because this is our future generation of adults who are gonna eventually run this country at some point. And so I think we got to take this stuff more seriously. Like a shout out to all the teachers out there that's out here still teaching. Y'all still making it happen. I know Texas is trying to do a better job at paying these teachers, but 60,000 is still not enough. That's still not enough.
I mean,
They need more than that.
right. Yeah, just comparing to just their roles and what all they're giving up, and just I mean this I'll take it even deeper. A lot of the teachers that don't actually have their own kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
or God forbid can't have kids,
Mm-hmm.
who dedicated their lives to molding these kids' lives, and just to really turn around and be slapped in the face by not being appreciated
Absolutely.
via pay or benefits or just regular stuff that everybody needs. And I mean even the way they get paid, like I think teachers in Texas get paid once a month.
Yeah, yeah. It's once a month.
What?
Yeah. It's been like that since I can remember. I mean, speaking of that, like, so for those that don't know, I graduated in 2010, right? Do the math, okay? And when I was in school, like middle school, I can remember from middle school, at least from 6th grade through 12th grade, there was always a teacher shortage. And it's like the shortages grew because by the time I got to high school, I had so many permanent substitutes. Like I don't know what it was like in Dallas because I didn't grow up in Dallas, but I live here now. But I lived in Longview, and I had hella substitutes, like hella permanent substitutes, hella substitutes coming in and out of classrooms because we don't have teachers. Substitutes getting hired on permanently because we don't have anybody to teach us. And these people were not, they didn't specialize in, certain um, different topics. Like they weren't, chemistry teachers or algebra teachers. It was just like, oh, I just got, a degree in secondary education or, whatever the case is. And it was like, oh, I'm smart enough to teach you enough. I'm smart
Right.
enough to sit in here and just watch you and make sure y'all don't beat each other up or do anything that you ain't supposed to be doing.
Right.
It's like they were low key glorified babysitters.
Right, for sure.
And I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that this was what I was in middle school in like 2003. So from 2003 all the way to 2010, I had substitutes. It's 2022, and this is still an issue, and it's worse. The amount of teachers that the amount of teachers that Texas is short of is ridiculous. Like Houston was like 600 to 800 teachers short, and that's just Houston.
Right. I remember back when I was in high school, this is probably '05, the bus driver had to take up history class. Like why is he driving buses doing gym class and history on he doesn't even have a break.
That's so wild to me, man. Like that. That's
That's
it's not,
crazy.
and it's not even funny. It's really sad because
Right.
it's like, bro, like you got people that's just like back when coaches was history teachers,
Mm-hmm.
but now you got coaches as history teachers, bus drivers, coaches, lunchmen.
Right.
It's crazy. And then that's another thing. Back to the American education system, free lunch.
Oh yeah.
They were offering free lunch to all. That's not a thing anymore.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people have talked about that. Shout out to my hometown, the school district. They did not go with that. They are still going to offer
Yeah.
free lunch. So shout out to them, and shout out to any other school district that's doing that,
Right.
and that's able to do that. And shame on Texas for not making sure these kids have something to eat, man.
Right.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, kids shouldn't have to go to school and worry about their education and also worry about what they're gonna eat. Like that's crazy.
Nah, not at all,
And
man.
I'm starting to hear about the influx of people actually starting to homeschool their kids,
Yeah, yeah.
which will be the wise choice at this point.
Truly, I just started to think again about the school to prison pipeline and how you go to ISS in school suspension
Mm,
and they treat you like a prisoner in there.
right.
Now, I never went to ISS.
I did.
I was able to strategically talk my way out of a lot of things.
Oh,
I wasn't that kid. Like, I wasn't, I was very mouthy, okay? I was very argumentative and, and I was right a lot of the times. And
right.
that does not sit well with
Yeah.
people when you're a
You got to
child.
make an example out of the
So,
leaders.
I
Yeah.
would talk my way out of things, and a lot of the times I was able to do that. But I didn't go to in school suspension, but I had a lot of friends that did and family members. And they would have sack lunches and have to walk with their hands behind their back. Sometimes they had them facing the wall. Like, what in the prison is this?
Right. That's insane.
Like, you couldn't do nothing. And then alternative schools. It's
Oh
like, oh,
yeah.
you too bad to go here. Oh, you got to go to like a jail school.
Yeah, I actually got expelled from Grand
What?
Prairie ISD.
You got expelled?
Yeah,
You
and I
too
had to
cool,
go,
Dash.
man. Exactly. And
You get expelled.
I went to JJAEP, which is Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program.
What was that like, bro? Like,
It,
was it like prison?
like you're talking about those kids. Okay, so you only could wear white shirts and khaki pants. Okay, you can only wear black shoes or white shoes. You had to. Well, first of all, the bus driver, she had to pick you up because there were so many, kids in different locations. So she had to pick you up from in front of your house. So you know how everybody in normal school they'll get picked up at bus stops, like 8, 10 kids at a stop. No, this lady had to drop off 20 kids in 20 different houses, and I was the last stop. So I would get out of school at 3:30 and didn't get home until 8:30 because she had to do all this driving and drive these kids around. So it was horrible, and at least I guess that's the only part of the prison pipeline I didn't get. At least I get to go home.
Yeah, that's still wow. It's still a wild concept to me. Like, it's it's just a wild concept. Like, you go to alternative school. First of all, they call it alternative school.
Alternative,
We used to call it bad kid school, bad ass school, jail.
yeah.
Because I mean, literally, the food, goodness. Even at regular school, the food was slop. Like, let's be
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
A lot of the times they was feeding us what looked like slop. Um, and I mean, I've seen food getting better over time, and I'm happy about that. But I mean, they had some good stuff, but they had some not so good stuff too.
Oh, trust me. The differences between Dallas ISD and Plano ISD and Frisco ISD are night and day. Some people, high schools has Chick-fil-A in it.
Oh yeah, we never had stuff like that. That wasn't that
What?
fancy.
Yeah, so we definitely had the square pizzas,
Oh yeah, we had the square pizzas, the breakfast pizzas,
the
the cheese
burgers with the
sticks.
cheese stuck to the
Yeah,
paper.
my favorite day was Thursdays. That was chicken fried steak day with the mashed potatoes,
I like
the
cheese
gravy,
fries. Cheese
the
fries.
green beans, the roll. Man, I'm getting hungry. The mashed potatoes. Jesus, Lord, help us.
But
Yeah, don't mind me. That just sounded real good. But anyway, so yeah, we just kind of wanted to talk about these topics because these are very important topics to talk about, things to think about. Who's educating your children? What are they learning?
yeah,
What is our duty as people, as parents, as community? What is our duty to these kids to make sure that they have the education they need? Mind you, we're in a school system. We're in school systems where they are monitoring what's being said. They're removing things like slavery and saying slave Atlantic trade and all of these random weird things. They're taking away things that should be talked about to make people more comfortable. And by people, let's just be real, white people, more comfortable in certain aspects. And at the end of the day, history has to be taught for what it was. The only way to not repeat history is to know that it happened. And if
right,
you're not teaching these kids that these things happen, then these kids don't understand that these things happen. And therefore, they are more prone to repeat these things.
right.
So it is very important that they know these things. And again, shout out to all the teachers out there, man, because the
Absolutely.
shortage is real. And we really appreciate y'all. And one day, y'all going to get the pay y'all deserve. We just
Yeah.
got to get the right people in office. If you in Texas, make sure you vote, man. Get this
Absolutely.
governor out of here, bro, because he ain't for the kids, man. He
No.
ain't for the people either.
Yeah, it's yeah, like I said, it's a very sad time when we're going through something where somebody can completely lose their passion and have to be super practical to say the thing I love doesn't pay me enough to live a decent life.
Right.
So whatever we have to do. I mean, of course, I'm an advocate for anybody getting treated equally and well. Uh, yeah, this is just one of those things that are very near and dear to me. Some of my foster parents were teachers, and they had to definitely make the sacrifice for their own kids to come home late and kind of do lesson plans and stuff like that. Couldn't even make dinner; they just didn't have the time. So yeah, definitely. This is something that's close to us. So
So yeah, y'all make sure y'all, like I said, just pay attention and make sure y'all are showing teachers appreciation if you can, and make sure your children are educated in all the areas and aspects that the American education system is not going to make sure that they are.
yeah,
If they don't make sure, you make sure. Do your research, reach out, do what you got to do to make sure that your kids understand the ways of life out here, man, for real.
yeah. So this is the Flight Podcast, man. Where can they find us?
Listen, you can find us on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, anywhere where a podcast exists, you can find Flight. That's FLIGHT. You can also find us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, follow. Facebook as well. We're out here.
Yeah,
Twitter and Instagram. We'll drop all of that information
yeah.
below. Make sure you like and subscribe. Don't forget to share and follow.
All right. Until
Peace.
next time.